Mina Kimes from ESPN and Robert Mays from the Athletics Football Show on Martin Emerson's regression last year in 2024.
It speaks to how volatile coverage is. Like it's just so hard to rely on that. And you have these years where it all clicks. And if you don't take advantage of those years, you're almost inevitably going to take a step backward. And that's just one of those things when it comes to defensive regression that we probably don't talk about enough because there's really no explanation for it.
Yeah.
Like I think we want these things to be prescriptive. Yes. Yeah. Where it's like, all right, well, why didn't this guy play as well in a year B compared to year A at corner? And there isn't really a causal element to it. Sometimes just he didn't play as well. And that's not a satisfactory answer to fans, but that just is how corner goes sometimes.
I also think that with corners, offenses are really good at studying their weaknesses and breaking them down. I think of Sauce
Maybe
Gardner,
that's it. It's a great point.
Perfect example of that as a player where he was at a rookie. He just looked like the best corner in the NFL. And I think offenses figured out how to attack him. Obviously running at him was a big thing.
Casey, the other thing that, we've heard Jim Schwartz relative to the coverage is pressure. Defensive line gets pressure. It helps those corners and the secondary out.
Yeah, it limits their exposure, the time they have to stay in phase. And in this league with these wide receivers that have been playing in 7-on-7 since they were 12 years old, like if you can turn it into that kind of affair, the offense will always have the advantage. But when it comes to Martin Emerson, you're not going to convince me he wasn't dealing with something physical last year. He had an unbelievable training camp. If you think of the joint practices against the Vikings, and he was going toe to toe with Justin Jefferson. I mean, it was to the point where Jefferson had to address it after it was over. And then when the season started, and there was week 2, it was kind of a noticeable dip. I just think he was dealing with something. Now he was never on the injury reports. He never made an excuse of it. He was going out there and battling. But if you just look at his play style, he is an in-phase mauler. He is someone who wants to make contact with you, stay sticky throughout the reps, stay in phase, and be relevant at the catch point. And you're not going to convince me he became a worse athlete at the age of 25. And part of it, Mina there's a point with her and Robert. Offenses will learn how to attack you over time. And there are things you can do to Emerson. And there's matchups you can exploit him with. Those little shifty guys, that's going to be harder for him. He is a bigger, more physical corner who leans into his length. But I think if played correctly, I think that he is still could be a premier talent at the position. He just has to be right physically because what he does travels. Now, what I'd like to see the Browns do with that is I would like to see Denzel be a move piece, be someone who goes over the coverage with the speedier guys, with the shiftier guys, and leave the bigger physical wide receivers to Martin Emerson. I think if you do that, he'll have an extremely successful season and could possibly be like one of the premier bounce backs in the NFL.
So you've got Greg Newsome, who's in the final year of his contract, Martin Emerson, final year of his contract. Who do you think comes back? Do you think both of them? If you think it's just one, which one do you think comes back? Or neither of them?
Well, obviously that is definitely an option when you get to this point in the contracts. But without no one else stepping up, without seeing what Miles Harden or Mitchell truly is in this league, it's hard for me to say you move on from both of them. And if I had to pick one to stay with, I'm staying with Martin Emerson. I just believe in his skill set and what he could be in this league. And Greg Newsome's kind of been miscast since Emerson arrived. He's an outside corner. He's just not playing outside. He's playing inside. Now, that could give other teams think he's more valuable as a person who could kind of be agnostic and move around the secondary. But if I had to pick one of the two, I would say Martin Emerson is a long-term corner in Cleveland, and this is more than likely Greg Newsome's final season, and I wouldn't be terribly surprised if he was dealt halfway through if things started to go south.